Colorado has always been synonymous with adventure, freedom, and forging your own trail in the rugged mountains. But fast forward to 2026, and the housing picture paints a far different reality. The state is surging with new residents, one of the fastest growing hotspots in the country, and, truthfully, it's quickly become one of the priciest. In Denver, average rents have soared well beyond $2,000 a month, easily cementing its status as one of the most expensive cities in the Mountain West. Up in Boulder, the median home price is edging dangerously close to $1 million. Everyday people, middle-class families, work-from-home professionals, retirees are feeling the squeeze. Caught between rising costs and shrinking options, for the thousands out there searching for a place they can actually afford, the math just doesn't make sense anymore. On the surface, it looks like Colorado is simply out of reach. But here's the part that gets overlooked. The mainstream narrative doesn't tell the full story. Scattered across the state, hidden in mountain hamlets, neglected rural counties, and quiet corners of the prairie are places where the cost of living is dramatically lower. In some cases, you can find opportunities to live for next to nothing, or even for free. Tonight, we're going to uncover that hidden side of Colorado. We'll be exploring what rent-free living really means here. From cooperative land communities, where you build and share resources together, to caretaker arrangements where luxury homeowners actually pay you to watch over their property, to small towns dangling remote land incentives just to attract new residents, and even off-grid lifestyles that can virtually wipe out your monthly bills. If you've been feeling boxed out by Colorado's relentless housing market, or just want to find a way to make life here possible without draining your savings, this is the inside track you've been searching for. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover isn't just about moving to a new address. It has the potential to fundamentally transform how you live, how you spend your time, and how you connect with your community. Let's kick things off with Trinidad, Colorado. This town might look like a relic from another era, but right now, it's at the forefront of Colorado's affordable living revolution. Nestled against the mountains with just over 8,000 residents, Trinidad is far from a forgotten dot on the map. In fact, it stands as living proof that accessible, affordable Colorado is still alive and well in 2026. If you know where to look, let's dig into the numbers. In Trinidad, the median home price sits in the $196,000 to $270,000 range, a fraction of what you'd pay in Denver or Boulder, where million-dollar listings are becoming the norm. For renters, the picture is just as encouraging. You can find a place for as little as $750 to $1,200 a month, making it about 40% less than the statewide average. And for those who qualify for local assistance, public housing options can drop to as low as $239 a month. A stark contrast to the sky-high rents that are pushing so many out of Colorado's bigger cities. But what really makes Trinidad stand out, and why it's become a centerpiece in Colorado's rent-free living story, is its unique housing culture. Unlike most places that rely solely on market forces, Trinidad supports a housing ecosystem built on community and mutual aid. Beyond traditional real estate, this town has quietly become a magnet for work-for-housing arrangements, a whole subculture where people exchange their skills, time, and effort for a place to live. It's a model that's rooted in neighborly support and practical collaboration, offering a lifeline to those priced out elsewhere. This alternative way of living isn't just a financial solution. It's a way to reclaim agency, form new connections, and rediscover what it means to truly belong in Colorado. Most people never hear about this side of the state, but for those who do, it opens up possibilities that go far beyond just finding a place to sleep at night. Local ranch owners, caretakers of old estates, and retirees with sprawling, aging homes, they all need something more than money. They need people who'll stay, people who show up, look after the property, and don't vanish when the snow gets deep or the pipes burst. In Trinidad's oldest neighborhoods and the far-off rural stretches, there's a whole hidden world built around this need. Let's talk about caretaker arrangements. Imagine this. Someone offers you a house for a fraction of the usual rent, or maybe even for free. All you have to do is keep up the yard, repair what breaks, and handle whatever the mountain weather brings. Sometimes it goes further, live in jobs, where you're shoveling heavy snow, patching roofs, keeping the place together. Here, your labor is your rent. Then there's the do-it-yourself housing world. These are old buildings, some just barely holding on, where resourceful folks make a home by trading their skills, their work, or just their willingness to help out in the community. You won't see these opportunities on official housing sites or the big real estate apps. This is all word of mouth. It's a system built on trust and necessity. The owners get peace of mind, and you get a shot at a life way cheaper than anything up north on the Front Range. Picture waking up in the shadow of the Rockies, paying little or nothing for your place, just because you're meeting a real need. That's what keeps Trinidad's housing world alive. And as you head deeper into Colorado's less famous towns, you'll see the same pattern, always with its own spin. Stay a while. There's more. 9L. Here, affordable living isn't just a catchphrase. It's real. If you've been priced out of the Front Range, listen up. The median home price in Alamosa County is around $245,000 to $280,000. That's nothing compared to resort towns. Apartment rents, usually $800 to $1,250 a month, far below most of Colorado. The local university brings a steady flow of students and professors, so there's life in the streets, but none of the crushing housing stress you find in the cities. But Alamosa isn't just about cheaper rent or smaller mortgages. It's a place to rethink your whole way of living. This valley is one of the state's largest agricultural areas, and here, land isn't just available, it's affordable. We're talking about small parcels, sometimes under $25,000. A lot of these places don't have utilities yet, but that's what draws people wanting to go off-grid. People move here to set up rainwater tanks, solar power, composting toilets, the whole thing. In Alamosa, the real price isn't your rent. It's choosing to leave the usual housing routine behind. Some folks let go of the idea of a traditional house entirely. Instead, they're building solar-powered homesteads out in the open or parking an RV on their own land. When you own the ground beneath your feet, sometimes your only bill is property tax, and sometimes that's under $900 a year. Others build tiny cabins, hauling the wood themselves, saving money with every nail they hammer. If you're willing to think outside the box, Alamosa offers more than just low costs. It gives you a chance to reinvent what home means. Rent, that's up to you. Land, it's not just an asset, it's a ticket to independence. Of course, this kind of freedom isn't easy. You need determination. You need to be handy, persistent, and willing to live without some common comforts. But in places like this, where the big housing system hasn't moved, and Colorado's future is quietly being rewritten. Stick around. Next, we're heading to an even smaller mountain town, where rent can disappear completely if you're willing to play by the community's unspoken rules. Del Norte, Colorado. About 1,600 people live here, tucked into the wide-open San Luis Valley. It used to be a busy stop for ranchers and railroads. Now, Del Norte sits at the intersection of old-fashioned community and modern do-it-yourself living. It doesn't make headlines. Rents aren't surging, there's no tech explosion. But honestly, what you'll find here is something much harder to come by. Picture a village where finding a home isn't just about the money, it's about connections and how you fit in. That's how it feels in Del Norte and throughout Rio Grande County. Here, houses usually sell for a bit over $200,000, which is way less than Colorado's average. Rentals most range from $700 to $1,100 a month, depending on size and location. As for property taxes on a small lot, often less than $1,000 a year. For many, that's a fair deal for a piece of land to call their own. But really, the numbers are just part of the story. What matters more is how people live together. Sure, you'll find banks and regular mortgages like anywhere else, but in Del Norte, there's a whole different kind of arrangement, a system built on trust and neighbors looking out for each other. Many of the older families own big old houses or farmland that can sit empty for months at a time. When Colorado's winter gets tough and help is scarce, those places need someone to watch over them, someone to keep pipes from freezing, clear snow off roofs, or just care for livestock and keep barns in shape. That's where younger folks and newcomers step in. Caretaker deals are almost a local secret. Sometimes, you'll see a house offered rent-free if you take care of it year-round. Maybe you get a place to stay, and in return, You keep an eye on the property, keep the utilities going, and make sure everything makes it through the winter. The owner gets peace of mind. You get a home, no government forms, no company in charge, just a community making its own rules. Here, people turn their work into rent. It's a hands-on lifestyle, and it attracts a certain kind of person. Del Norte sits close to the Rio Grande and the Continental Divide, so you meet fishing guides, outdoor lovers, seasonal workers, a whole mix. Many of them rely on these caretaker deals to follow their passions and still have a place to live. It's not fancy living, and it's not always easy, but it offers freedom. Freedom from the usual grind of mortgages and landlords. In Del Norte, you're not just picking a spot on a map, you're choosing your place in the community. Here, who you are and what you can contribute matter more than what you can pay. But that's only one piece of Colorado's housing story. Head out of the valley, and you'll find a town where even the land itself is almost a giveaway, just to bring new life to quiet streets. Let's talk about Westcliff. Westcliff is tucked away in the wet mountain valley, with a population just over 600. The stars outshine the streetlights here literally, since it's one of Colorado's official dark sky towns. But in 2026, what really stands out is the cost of living. In Custer County, homes usually go for $425,000 to $500,000. That sounds high, but you're often getting some land with it. If you look at empty parcels just outside town, things get interesting. You can still buy land for $30,000 to $80,000, and annual property taxes on a modest lot usually stay under $1,500. Forget the cookie-cutter suburbs. Westcliff has its own style of minimalist migration. People are leaving pricey cities like Denver and Colorado Springs, teaming up with family or friends, and buying land together. Picture 3 families, maybe 5 friends, or a group of remote workers and retirees pooling their resources. They all own the land, then work out who uses what with private agreements. It's a whole new spin on the housing game. Instead of paying $2,000 a month in rent, everyone shares the big costs: land payments, solar panels, well water, and taxes. When you add it all up, most people end up paying just $600 to $900 a month for their share of the good life out here. Some people go even further. They're living in RVs on their property, or setting up tiny homes on shared land. Out here, in this small rural county, zoning laws are much more relaxed than what you'd see in the city. That kind of freedom lets people get creative. Modular cabins, houses you add on to over time. You can start small, keep things simple, and only build more when you can afford it. But honestly, you've got to be tough. Winters are rough. The wind is no joke. Grocery stores are few and far between. Convenience, forget about it. What you get instead is a deep, almost overwhelming quiet. Still, if you're after off-grid living, or just want a break from skyrocketing housing prices in 2026, you'll keep hearing about Westcliff. It's not fancy, and that's the idea. It works. If you think sharing land is unusual, just wait until you see what's going on in the state's most famous ski towns. Here's where things get interesting. The ski town paradox. Some of the most expensive places in America, Telluride, Crested Butte, Aspen, are quietly running some of Colorado's most overlooked housing solutions. On paper, these towns are out of reach. Median home prices, usually from $1.5 million up to $4 million. Luxury condos often sell for over $1 million. In peak season, basic rentals go for $3,000 to $5,000 a month. Most people just can't do it. But here's the reality: they need workers, ski patrol, restaurant staff, lift operators, teachers, nurses. None of them can pay $4,000 a month for rent. So something had to change. To keep things going, many ski towns set up serious employee housing options. We're talking heavily subsidized, deed-restricted, or employer-provided housing. Look at Telluride. The local housing authority has workforce-restricted homes. So if you qualify, you might pay 30% to 50% less than market rent. In Crested Butte, resort employers provide dorm-style housing or shared apartments, with costs often taken right from your paycheck, usually very affordable. And in Aspen, the housing authority runs thousands of deed-restricted units. Some are long-term and sell for far below market price. but getting one is extremely competitive. So what do the numbers look like? Instead of $4,000 a month, you might pay between $800 and $1,500 for shared employee housing. Sometimes, your job comes with a place to live. Basically, you're trading some job flexibility for a shot at life in one of the most beautiful places on earth. But here's the catch, and it matters. This isn't hands-off living. You have to qualify. You need to work in town, and you have to keep that job. In many cases, lose the job, and you lose the housing. That's the risk that doesn't get talked about. For young professionals, seasonal workers, or remote folks willing to pick up a local part-time gig, this setup can cut housing costs by thousands each month. You live where tourists pay $800 a night, but you're spending a fraction for rent. That's the Colorado twist. The priciest towns sometimes have the best housing programs because without workers, the whole luxury scene can't function. It's an opportunity, not a permanent solution, and definitely not easy. But if you're smart about it, it's a way to live the mountain dream without getting buried in mountain debt. Now, let's go back a bit and visit San Luis, Colorado. Founded in 1851, it's the oldest town in the state that's still around. About 600 people live here, tucked away in the desert. But don't let the calm atmosphere fool you. San Luis has one of the strongest anti-rent traditions you'll find anywhere in Colorado. This isn't a fancy program, or a subsidy, or a company-run housing plan. It's just a system that's been there longer than modern mortgages. The numbers tell the story. Median home prices usually range between $150,000 and $250,000. You can still find raw land for $20,000 to $40,000 in some areas, and property taxes, some of the lowest in the state, often under $800 to $1,200 a year for a modest house. This is where things get really interesting. Many families in San Luis never joined the rush for modern housing. Land just stayed in the family. People inherited homes, say added rooms or porches over time, paying cash when they could. Around here, most people skipped mortgages entirely. So for many folks, there's no rent, no bank loan, no landlord hovering. The only regular costs are property taxes and basic repairs. It's not a fancy lifestyle. It's practical, sturdy, and let's be honest, almost immune to inflation. When housing prices exploded in Denver and Boulder, San Luis barely moved. Why? Outsiders aren't driving prices up. It's just families sticking around, passing down property, keeping things stable. Let's break it down with numbers. Say you live in a modest house worth $200,000. No mortgage. Your yearly property tax is under $1,000. That means your real monthly housing cost could be under $150. This isn't just theory. It's the way families here actually live. But it's not all easy. San Luis is pretty remote. Good jobs are scarce, and winters can be very quiet. If you get sick, the closest hospital isn't nearby. Forget city perks. There aren't trendy coffee shops or food delivery apps. This place lasted because families decided to settle in and stay, not because it's a hidden paradise for remote workers. This isn't about hacking your way to rent-free living or chasing the latest relocation trend. It's about holding on to land for generations. While people across the country search for ways out of the housing crisis, San Luis has already done something radical. They chose stability over speculation. Here, housing isn't just a monthly payment, it's a legacy. If San Luis shows the old-fashioned way of keeping a roof over your head, the next story is about something new, something experimental. Across rural Colorado, you'll find micro-cops, barter systems, and handshake deals quietly changing how people find a place to live. Honestly, this new approach might be easier to jump into than inheriting a house. There's a new wave of people moving out here not to drop out of society, but to escape the usual housing grind. They call themselves homesteaders, minimalists, off-grid families, but really, they're getting rid of rent and purpose. In areas like the San Luis Valley, or counties such as Huerfano and Fremont, land is still affordable. You can find off-grid lots for $15,000 to $50,000, or land near town for $30,000 to $80,000. Instead of taking on a 30-year mortgage, these modern homesteaders pay cash and build slowly. There's no rush. Maybe it's a cabin, maybe a yurt, maybe a prefab house, whatever keeps costs and permits under control. By avoiding debt, they're inventing a whole new kind of housing math. Imagine this. You buy land for $35,000. You spend $40,000 to $75,000 building your cabin. Maybe $20,000 more for solar, and $25,000 for a well. Sure, it's not free, but at the end, there's no landlord, and no big payment to the bank every month. Property taxes, maybe less than $1,000 a year. Suddenly, your monthly bills drop sometimes to under $500, including utilities. That's the appeal. And plenty of people aren't building alone either. People are coming up with new ways to live together, but it's not exactly what you might expect. This isn't some old-fashioned commune. Imagine a few families buying land right next to each other and working as a team. They divvy up the big tasks. One person keeps the tractor running, another takes care of the vegetables, and someone else makes sure there's water. It's a clever way to share the workload and save cash. They're doing all this because rents in cities like Denver have soared to $2,000 a month. And honestly, people are tired of waiting for things to get cheaper, so they're changing the game. It's about trading convenience for control. Forget about central heating. You're chopping firewood for the stove. No city water. Instead, you're collecting rain. The debt goes away, and life gets a little more manageable. But let's be real, this isn't the easy life. Winters can be harsh, and the work is tough. That dream of effortless off-grid living, it's just that, a dream. Still, if you look at what people are searching for in 2026, it's obvious. Americans want something else. They're not waiting for the system to fix itself. They're starting over, building life from the ground up. Once you cut out that massive rent payment, everything changes. Suddenly, saving money and grabbing a bit more freedom actually feels possible. And for those who want to go even further, there's a quieter movement, caretaker deals, and rural agreements that barely make it onto public listings. Sometimes, these arrangements wipe out housing costs overnight. No construction, no mortgage, just a different kind of deal. Take Walsenburg, Colorado, for example. Tucked just south of the Front Range, this little town rarely shows up in relocation guides. But for those looking for affordable living, it's hard to beat. Median home prices run between $148,000 and $180,000. That's 40 to 60% less than most of Colorado. In certain areas, you can still find houses under $80,000, which is almost unheard of in the state. If you're renting, a small apartment or studio averages only $578 a month. Compared to Denver's $2,000 rents, you're not just saving cash or cutting expenses to the bone. Of course, Walsenburg isn't booming by anybody's standards. There's no tech boom, no fancy ski resorts here. But what you do get is room to breathe. People buy old houses with cash and fix them up themselves. Some rent out a spare room or live in an RV on their own land. When your housing costs are a fraction of what others are paying, you're not just getting shelter, you're buying freedom. You get time and a chance to build something new. No extras, just real financial relief. It's a place where you can finally stop scraping by and actually start living. And then there's Luna, Colorado, way down at the bottom of the map. This town breaks the rules about sky-high rents and impossible home prices. No luxurious ski chalets, no mountain getaway feel. It's just wide-open prairie and true affordability. Homes here go for $150,000 to $180,000. Way less than anything near Denver. Look a little harder and you'll find starter homes for $100,000 to $120,000, places most buyers ignore. Rents are low too, usually between $600 and $700 a month. Property taxes, often just a few $1,000s a year. Owning a home here can be shockingly inexpensive. And here's the thing. In La Junta, as the locals call it, lots of people live in homes that have been in the family for generations, or they bought them outright years back. No rent, no mortgage, just a place of their own, and a whole different kind of freedom. No monthly mortgage payments here. Property taxes stay low, and most people take care of maintenance themselves. Recently, many have started turning barns into rentals, which helps cover expenses even more. Honestly, folks living here spend much less than you'd pay in Denver or Aspen. Forget about rent or mortgage. The biggest expenses are utilities and upkeep. Luna really changes what affordable living means in Colorado. It's not about luxury amenities or amazing views. It's about practical, real ways to improve your finances from the ground up. That's the heart of the Colorado escape. ND, just wait. The next town on our list is somehow even more affordable.